Hi, it's Warren Whitlock with more emerging technology talk. Uh, I've been hearing a whole lot about people worried about certain things about AI. Used to be we were all scared of killer robots that they showed in science fiction movies. I think some of that's gone. Although yesterday I saw another post claiming that that was possible. Actually, it was an intro to a very positive discussion on AI topics, and they wrote about some movies that had been very scary, and now science fiction is coming to life. Science fiction technology might be coming to life. What happens in the plot of a science fiction movie is never an exact transcript of what the future is going to be. So let's start with that one and say that's something to get out of the way. But let's talk about whether or not we should be afraid of AI and what could we do about it if we wanted to slow down AI's growth. Um, why we would do that, and how that might happen, and what ethics are involved, do things like that. So first of all, let's get right to the worry part. I live by what Mark Twain said, that 90% of the stuff you worry about isn't ever going to happen, and the other 10% you probably can't change. I have melded that quote over many years quoting it. I haven't seen it in print, so that might not be exactly right. Please share with the comment if I've got it wrong on any of this thing. Because always glad to hear from you. Love communication, so please, like, share, comment. Let's get a discussion going on this topic, and show me where I'm wrong, and I, I was going to say praise me when I'm right, but actually, I'd rather talk about how it can affect you or affect us or how we can help humanity. But sure, you can say attaboy too. But uh, yeah, I definitely want to know if you think something's wrong here. But first of all, let's get talking about the fear. So we're not going to worry too much about it, but and there's one good reason with the growth of AI, robots, and technology taking over that we just don't get anything out of worrying, and that is we can't stop it. First of all, you and I, and listen, and all the rest of our audience and friends, and that's probably not very big army, so we probably won't get a whole lot done. We can get a lot of good done, and we can all benefit from it, but that's a different story. Well, right now, let's talk about what if we wanted to do something about this. Well, it's kind of too late. The AI is being used to write better AI. There are new products out every day that came faster, new technology, new breakthroughs in medicine, breakthroughs in manufacturing, uh, products coming to market faster that are being done with AI. Yesterday, I met with some people that are running a business that you wouldn't think of as a high tech business at all, um, but they they have grown by 300% in the last year. And the interviewer asked, uh, "How did that come about?" And they said, "Well, it's simple. We're using chatbots. We are talking to the AI and getting the answers we need and getting help with writing, and we are much more productive, and every part of the organization gets faster." That's already happening. So, and if you care about competition, well, the competition is probably not going to stop using AI, whether that be the foreign government, the bad guys, the big corporations, the other political party, whoever it is that is your enemy, they're using AI. So to say we ought to slow down, kind of scary. Will the government be able to slow down AI? There's something we ought to talk about. I don't know. I don't think it's possible right now. Let's this getting into the subject of can we stop it? No. Yes. What would happen if there was a government crackdown and they said you can't use AI anymore, they'd have to ferret out and destroy anything that was using AI already because the machine learning is learning and things are getting better done. And we'd have to throw away a lot of the innovation that's happened in at least the last decade because of the use of AI in its early forms. And we'd have less games, different art, all sorts of things like that. So I did a poll the other day and asked my Twitter followers whether we should fear AI, and I was shocked to find out that um, probably over half of the responses I got were saying some reason we ought to fear it, or no, but. And if you haven't heard before, whenever somebody tells you a compound sentence with "but" is the joining word, the part that they really mean will be the part after. So they said, "Nah, we don't need to be afraid of AI, but we need to watch out for all sorts of things. And usually they're nebulous in general. And I'm here to help go through a couple of those. So first off, let's talk about big business taking more control of our lives or the economy or whatever. Well, that's what big businesses do. They get more things done. One thing they don't do is do something that is um, morally wrong because they are morally wrong. They usually do things because they want something which may not agree with your morals, but quite often does. The big business people I've met are out to do something that they think is making the world a better place. We have some disagreements about that, and uh, yes, and some would say that the answer to that is to regulate. And if so, who are you going to trust to do that? The people that don't understand AI that are working in a political job, scary. Maybe they can. Maybe there can be some guidelines. We'll get to guidelines here in a minute. But yeah, I don't know who could outthink a machine that's already thinking faster and smarter than us. So, and that's just continuing. So that and that leaves individuals, warriors, somebody you know, the the rebel team that blows up the bad computer. Uh, with the centralized systems, is getting tougher and tougher to know who's in charge. It's a real issue, and I think it's a separate issue. We can't slow down AI. We ought to be able to use AI to do a better job of getting to what could be uh, should be stopped if we think something should be stopped. We find out a criminal organization is using AI to bother other people. I'm not even going to say what crime, any crimes. If they're if they're getting away with traffic citations because of AI, doesn't really matter. Anything top to bottom or murder, there you go. There's a range. Traffic citations to murder. Um, and they're using AI as part of their operation. Well, we ought to be thinking about what laws are being if we find out that some nefarious activity is happening, we ought to be going after the nefarious activity rather than uh, thinking that somehow turning off a certain technology would make it a fairer level playing field. Because the bad guys aren't going to turn theirs off easy. Um, so maybe we find out what they're doing and work against that. A great parallel is spam. Um, eh, Most everybody I've ever met is totally against the idea of spam. I have met one guy who made money selling equipment to spammers. Uh, so it is it is possible that a fairly good person could do a bad thing there. But mostly anybody hears about spam, they're all. But we all get spam. We all get lots of spam. So somewhere in the world, there's somebody doing it. And I have to I have to give you my aside on that about Nigeria. It's not a Nigerian prince. I have many friends in Nigeria. They are good people. They aren't pretending to be princes. That was a white guy in the Caribbean that did that, that wrote that. Um, Convincing story that he came up with. And some of the spam that's being written today is thanks to AI. But should we shut down email because some of it's spam? No. Before email, we had junk mail. We had people just, you know, getting carried away with local ordinances about putting up signs to advertise their business. People are going to try to trade and trade more, and they're going to use whatever guerrilla tactics they can get their hands on. Some regulation makes some sense. The smart thing to do is to make sure, as as does happen, your email provider spends a lot of resources making sure that you don't get spam. They'll be doing the same thing to make sure you don't get AI spam. They'll be doing the same thing to make sure they label and warn you about things like uh, uh, deep fake images that you get that can, if they can technically get it to be labeled, they will, but most likely they'll just have to find out ways to identify or ways for a human to say, hey, this guy's trying to scam me, and block the email that it comes from, or whatever other thing is used. So um, I think of AI as a tool. I did hear a very good discussion on this just yesterday about AI isn't a tool, it's a new thing. And I listened. Very smart guy, reasoning out how AI is different than other tools, and AI is different than a lot of things. It's still something that a human uses to get what they want, and I guess that's why I come out very positive and optimistic about the future of us using AI. Is that most people are good people. Most people that are building these things want good things to happen. Uh, and if we do our best, things are going to work out okay. Karma will get the bad guys. If we decide not to fight, we could have problems, but uh, I don't see that happening. But let's talk about the computers getting smarter than us and completely taking over. Artificial general intelligence, or AGI. If AGI takes over, which it will, it and it's a first of all, the term's coined by my friend Dr. Ben Goertzel, who wrote a book about this back in 2005, and coined the term that there would be narrow intelligence and general intelligence. The artificial part is kind of a misnomer. That's what we called AI. That's where the letters come from, but it's not really artificial. It is human intelligence applied through silicon, or whatever computers come next, um, and um, and it's real intelligence. I can't tell the difference between uh, one form of intelligence and another. Is there better intelligence? Yes, they're smarter, and there's different kinds of intelligence, and that's one of the things that the guy saying that it's a new thing was trying to point out, that as we teach the AI to be emotionally intelligent, it learns that, and then it learns to be, he called it action intelligence, or it's action. It just kind of fell apart in as he was describing it. But the point being that as it builds its successor, and it gets smarter, and it sucks in more data, we're going to get a system that's faster. Just this year, is of April 2024, we've seen every major company announce something that will in the future blast past any of the limits that they had. NVIDIA, the chip maker that makes chips for just about everybody doing machine learning. Uh, they've got the graphic processor unit that came from whatever ran your games. And when they applied that to machine learning, they found out that it was, massively superior to the other kind of CPUs. And over time, they've grown and grown and grown. Their announcement a couple of weeks ago was that they would have a chip that was larger, physically larger, and larger in transistors than anything they've done in the past. And then when they got done explaining that and all the specs for it, which I won't bore you with the small part I remember, and won't take the risk of being wrong on all of my numbers, but just all the ones became twos or sixes, all the every number doubled. The 30x was in a slide someplace, so things got a lot better. When they got done talking about that one chip, he said, well, now we're going to take that chip and another one just like it and put it on a board. And when we put this on a printed circuit board, we'll need a third chip, a very good CPU, to help control the interaction of the two chips. The reason they have to be larger is because they're moving data so fast. And then the throughput of this is going to be huge. And I sat there and said, man, this thing is like bigger than than what would have been a supercomputer not long ago. And then the next thing he showed was that these cards would then be mounted in a rack. So they'd go across the rack and stand about 4 inches high, 6 inches high, something like that. And again, don't trust me on those numbers, but and then that rack would be that the unit would be placed into a rack system, what all the data centers have, and then they showed a picture of a 6 foot tall cabinet rack that was one of uh, 20 or 30 racks together, and that became the giant unit that they wanted to sell. Obviously, those are selling for a lot more than I have in my back pocket, and is not going to be used by any of us real soon. But when that thing comes out, they'll be able to do more as the ability of all the AIs and all the conversations AIs are having will all be able to be housed on that. I was pretty impressed by that until I saw Google announcing that what they're doing to actually build hardware, Microsoft building hardware, and investing $100 billion in a data center with OpenAI to build who knows what more. Amazon came on and said they were going to spend that kind of money. And these people are either developing a chip so that they don't have to pay all the money to NVIDIA, or they probably the market's big enough for all of them to survive. So, and meanwhile, there's all sorts of researchers figuring out ways to get an AI into your phone, which brings me to the fun part about artificial general intelligence. Isn't it what we really want? I advise a company called Twin Protocol, and this protocol is going to be used in corporations, in enterprise, to build things on top of that will be. It's a blockchain AI that you'll be able to build other instances on for either tracking memberships of something or identities or but mostly the twin comes from digital clone, and that's a digital twin or a clone. I'd like to clone myself. I don't need to clone my body. My body has a lot of weakness. I work mostly with my mind. I also don't want to house and feed a clone. So the idea of getting a clone, no, maybe a robot to do some things for me, but not a clone, not another one of me, because I want whenever I engage a tool, I wanted to do something I'm not so good at. And so another one of me wouldn't be very helpful. Sure, I could get more output of my kind of output done, but I'd have to take care of the clone, and that just seems like things could go wrong. However, my brain multiplied makes sense. The ability to, when I want to learn a subject, I can assign a AI that is very smart, that knows everything about me and goes and learns that subject. And maybe someday Neuralinks it into my brain. I don't know. Maybe just does it. Um, I've read a whole lot about accounting. I've taken courses in accounting. I found out that there's one part of accounting I don't like. That is adding up and tracking numbers, which is the kind of the heart of accounting. I don't like the paperwork. I'm very glad that I've got computers that do that for me, that add up a row of numbers, or a column of numbers, most likely. It could add up a row too, but and does calculations like that. I want my AI bot to do that. So let's get into the ethics a bit, and we'll wrap it up with that. Um, the beneficial artificial general intelligence, or beneficial AGI conference in Panama 2 months ago, was where we uh, where we investigated what kind of things we could do as humans to encourage that in the future the AGIs would be nice to us. Um, and not quite put, it wasn't that way in the conference brochure, but as we got talking about it, the experts there were talking about a future. And I liked what Ben Gertzel did. He had, what can we do to control AGI? And the word had a red line through it, the word control. And he tried some other words about what we could do. He came up with guide, provide some good ideas to the supercomputer AGI that's coming. And then it came to me that probably influence is the best word. Now, we know about influencers that might be a waste of time in today's society, or might be the coming future of how people do business. I don't know. I'm called an influencer very often, so I kind of like it for that word. But influence, the root word of influencer, something I've been studying for 45 years. I figure another 20 years, I'm going to start to understand what makes people think. I've still got a long ways to go. I'm giving it a lot more study now than I ever have. And I think the influencing is something that a baby does when it cries. It gets what it needs from its mother, and father. To be politically correct there, from whoever the caretaker is, and the uh, and it goes on to learn words, and words can be used to get what you want. And you learn to do more than say, I want this, give it to me. You find out that by getting in more complicated, complex connections with the rest of humanity, you can get more. And sometimes the feeling of joy. Sometimes it's not about getting more material stuff. It's really what motivates me is how I can feel better, know that I'm doing what's right, and help, and that joy of helping other people. And so I'm happy to accept your bills and checks and electronic payments, crypto. I'll take it all. But I'm a capitalist. But at the same time, what really motivates me is that in doing so, I build my ability to do more good in the world. When I think about living a long life, it's to do more good in the world. So I took a look at this and I said, let's see what we can do to influence the AGI. And then it came to me. It was not a new concept. You probably heard of this before, but let me make sure to state here once on this podcast series that there isn't going to be one AI ever. There's not going to be a supercomputer controlled by some huge government corporation cabal that is going to just take over our lives. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying I don't see any way that that is the future, because what is happening already is many AIs. And when we started working on digital twins 3 years ago, we thought hey, wouldn't it be cool to have a twin that's in your phone or whatever that device is called in the future? And yeah, really cool. And of course, we thought you could have more than one, but now I realize I use multiple chat system interfaces to talk to AI. I do some things that don't have a chat interface, and et cetera, et cetera. And I help other people set up more of them. What happens when I have an agent that contains more processing power than my brain, and who knows, maybe more processing power than all our brains, and I have one in my phone or earpiece or whatever the future system is, um, I'm probably going to want a second one. I am going to have one that's really good at giving me accounting advice. I'm going to have another one that's an attorney that I'm going to limit very much as to what they can get a hold of. Um, I'm going to get one that will help me with my fitness and staying alive and will know me intimately about things like that. And definitely, I want AI's working agents working on my connections with the people I know, how I can check in on them, uh, so important in my outlook of the future is the human connections. And I think when we know more people, when we're connected better, when the drudgery of most everything we do day to day is taken care of, then we will all spend more time helping one another. Well, that's it. We shouldn't. I hope I've given you something to think about not slowing down AI. It doesn't work. The math comes out to be that the best you can do is sit and wait while somebody else gets ahead of you. And I'm for getting as much prosperity as fast as possible, mostly by keeping up with what's already there. We are not only uh, moving fast and trying to stay near the bleeding edge on things, but we should be out there pushing the bleeding edge, or we're not going to be able to keep up. And if you don't need to keep up with everything, it's the intelligence of AGI will overtake us all. So, we can rest. But in the meantime, there's so many opportunities, whether or not it's investing in promising companies that are bringing about good things, or making our jobs easier, or getting a new job. These are all things that there's still plenty of time to do. You will use these tools to enhance your life, and at some point, they're probably going to take over, and our lives will look a whole lot different than they do now. We will not be put in a put in a factory and plugged in for food. Nope, we're going to be able to travel, do whatever we want. We'll have fed everybody. We'll have made people free. For the most part, there's always going to be some evil out there trying to do something else. But we're going to make it so that everyday life is just wonderful and abundant. That's what I believe. Tell me where I'm wrong, and we'll talk to you again in the next episode.